Yes, my people, good day. We're going to finally change the oil filter housing gasket on this Nissan. So this is the gasket, this is the filter. I'm going to change the oil at the same time. All right, so come on, let's go. Let me show you how we swap this thing out. Let's go. The first thing I do is remove the sway bar, move it out the way so I can have some more room to work. When you remove these 4 bolts from the brackets, it will just hang down so you have more space. Yeah, as I said, it drops down. Broke off that plug. There's always some surprises, but you keep moving. I pinch off the coolant supply hose and remove the clamp. The oil filter housing is also a oil cooler, so it has a coolant supply and return hose. I use my pick tool to get between the hose. Just be ready with your drain bucket because it squirts. I am undoing the hose on the other side. Remember, there's a supply and a return. After you get done removing both clamps, just remove both hoses all the way. Then remove the oil filter. This gives you room to get to the hose on the other side, the hose clamp. So you're doing 2 things at once, making room for yourself and then also draining the oil. The pick tool comes in very handy anytime I'm working with coolant hoses. If you do not have one of these tools, definitely consider buying one. The fastener holding the oil filter housing to the block is a 22mm. So I got my 22mm out and my handy 1/2-inch ratchet that I bought at Harbor Freight, nice and cheap, that works really fine, and broke the bolt loose. Then carefully remove the bolt from the oil filter housing and get it out of there without making too big of a mess. That's the old gasket right there, and that's what we're going to be changing. Drain the oil at this time while you're going to be cleaning up the old part. We're in our parts washer, so while you're doing that, the oil's draining. You know, you're doing 2 things at once. That's the old gasket, just showing it to you, discard of it appropriately. And then now just wiping it off, cleaning it up, shining it up, polishing it up. Now, my shameless plug. Don't forget to go and check my Shopify, buy one of my magnets. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. There is the new gasket, nice and shiny and supple. And this is how it fits on there, just like that with that little ridge. And then here, most importantly, this is the orientation tab when you're putting it in because it installs is only one way. But before you install it, clean off the area. Just carefully I use a paint scraper really gently, not too harsh. I don't want to score it, and then wipe it off nice and clean. Then carefully orient, remember the tab, it fits and lines up with another tab on the block itself. So you just carefully put it on there. Now it's a little bit tricky. You're gonna see me fighting and struggling with it a little bit before it lines up. The threads are really fine. You don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to cross thread that, but just be persistent and you'll get it. Just like you see me get there. I wiggle it, just checking, making sure that the alignment tab is correct, and then proceed to tighten it up the rest of the way. It is almost time to put everything all the way back together. So I am now reinstalling the coolant hoses, one on each side, and then putting the clamps back on. Don't forget that part. Make sure you put the clamps back on. And then after that, I'm going to remove the pinch off pliers. They are very handy, very helpful, especially when working with coolant hoses. It prevents you from having to drain the entire cooling system. You can just clamp it off. Install the new oil filter on there, nice and tight. Make sure everything's good. Then I use a little brake clean just to make my work area look nice. Don't forget to put the oil drain plug back in. I've done that before. I filled it up in the top, then I look down and I see that all my oil is on the floor. I'm using some anti-seize here on the bolts for my, you remember when the video started, my friend right there, the sway bar. So I'm just putting some anti-seize on there because they're a little bit rusty, the threads were. So I always like using it. It just insurance for the future. I don't know if I'm going to ever work on this thing again. You never know. So I'm just tightening everything up, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you have a blessed day.